Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health, and in today's video we're going to be talking about popping in your hips when doing kicks. So kicks like this. Now, this is a movement that I have long used as a test for my hip health because I used to do martial arts as a kid. So, I'm always wondering, hey, can I do this? And for a very long time, I couldn't even get my leg couldn't even get it to like parallel because it just hurt too much. My groin would hurt, I'd feel pulling, yanking, popping, and snapping, and it just wasn't comfortable. Obviously, it's improved quite a bit, right? I can kick pretty high now, and it doesn't really cause a problem. And the reason is because I worked a lot on the muscles, right? I worked a lot on the adductors. I continuously worked to strengthen them, stretch them out, get them used to that kind of function. But what I did recently was I decided to go on a medical adventure, and I went to visit a sports medicine doctor to see what he would say about my hips, my popping and snapping. I get a little bit of popping and snapping in different ranges of motion, but they're very clearly, for me, so clearly related to muscle activity and nothing else. But I wanted to get the medical perspective just to see what happens. Now, I couldn't bring in a GoPro and record all this because I think actually in California it would be illegal to do that. But I can give you my version of the events, my story about what happened. So it's fascinating. I'm going to do more videos about this doctor's visit. End result is I have arthritis. But the thing that I want to share is the doctor's theory about what was causing snapping and popping in my hips. So just to clarify, what I told the doctor was, look, when I go like this and then I kick out like that, I'll get pops. Okay, I'll get pops. I actually told him I only got pops here, but in reality I'll occasionally get pops here and then just around some of the butt muscles there, and I'll get a pop right down here towards the mid-thigh. Usually I'll only get one pop, so I'll do it, it'll pop, and then if I keep doing it, it won't pop anymore because the muscle basically just kind of boop, moved into position and then it's fine. So the more I train it, the less it pops. So that out of the way, I showed the doctor, hey, when I do this, pop. He was sitting 4 or 5 feet away, he heard the pop, he's like, oh, that's interesting. So he did a bunch of tests, the execution of which was really funny, so I'll have to share that in another video. Did a bunch of different movement tests, all that stuff, and then he had 3 theories about why my hips were popping. He said there are 3 contributing factors. One of them had to do with arthritis, another had to do with labral tears, another had, arthritis, labral tear. The other one had to do with snapping hip syndrome. We said my psoas might be contributing. And then the best one. The best one is the one I'm going to share with you right now. So he said the hip joint, the ball and socket joint. So when you are going to move around, that's a pretty unstable joint. The femur can slip out of the socket really easily, right? So he said when you go out to kick, you're at the end of the range of motion, and then you're kicking with such velocity. With the velocity I showed you, that's the velocity he's talking about. So you're kicking with such velocity that you're dislocating your femur from the acetabulum, and as it's coming back in, it's making a snapping sound. I'm pausing for comedic effect. Think about how impossible that theory is. So he was actually saying that coming out like this and kicking was so far out of the normal range of human body's motion that I was dislocating the hip joint. And to be clear, he wasn't talking about this hip, the one that's floating. That's only like, that one's like slightly plausible. He was saying my hip popping was coming from, on this side, it was coming from the hip joint dislocating. So just to refresh, or maybe give you a quick orientation here, if this is the socket and this is the ball, when I'm going out like this, I'm actually right on top, right? The socket is sitting right on top of the ball. So I'd like you to imagine a situation where I could possibly dislocate that, given that the weight of my body is sitting on top of the femur. Can you? Probably not, because I have to basically fall off of my leg, right? I'd have to physically just bust that loose and fall apart before that femur comes out of the socket, since the socket is on top, right? The only other way you could get it to dislocate is if you had something that was securely fastened around just like my pelvis and my rib cage or something, and then ripped that all up, and you also had my left foot glued to the ground or like strapped to the floor so it was stuck there. That's literally the only way. Those are the 2 ways you could see me dislocating the femur from the acetabulum in that position. But that was his actual theory about what was going on with my hip. So the reason I'm sharing this story is to share a really clear illustration of when a theory passes as truth, but actually doesn't stand up to the test of basic reality. Right? So somewhere along the line, this doctor has picked up this theory. I don't know where, I can't even believe it's a theory. But he believes very strongly that what I'm doing when I do this is actually physically dangerous for my body, despite the fact that it actually feels pretty darn good, and despite the fact that there have literally been I'll say millions, hundreds of millions of people who have practiced martial arts quite safely for thousands of years. Doing this does not generally dislocate a hip unless you really do something funny, right? Unless you're in combat and somebody kicks you and knocks your legs and twists it out, right? But to him, this was a valid theory because somewhere he's learned it. But if you just put it to the sniff test and just think about the implications of that theory, it doesn't make sense at all. So one of the things we really encourage people to do when they're working with their bodies is to not take any theory about pathology too seriously. Yeah, sometimes maybe something could go wrong, and maybe the thing that you see in an X-ray or MRI, maybe it has something to do with what you're experiencing, but maybe it's a better idea for you to just train as if your problems can be trained out. And just keep your mind on that, right? Because the other theories, a lot of times, like this theory that this doctor was offering me, these other theories will often just result in a recommendation of stop moving. And it's pretty clear if you stop moving, you will quickly be unable to move. That's not controversial, right? If we just splint your arm and hand and wrist and fingers and just tape everything in one straight line, if we do that for 6 months, do you think you're going to have much control, strength, etc. in your forearm and wrist and hand? No, the answer is you will not, because those muscles will have rotted away. So if you already know what the end game is on some of these other ideas, try on a different idea. Maybe if you move your body in a different way, maybe it's going to be fine. So this doctor's theory was basically, I'm hurting myself, contributing to arthritis, and all of that is actually counter to a whole lot of personal experimentation and life experience. But for him, it seems like the true, valid, helpful thing to say to me. I've already tested it. I already know that his line of reasoning doesn't work. And I've seen it enough times now with other people to confidently say, hey, maybe you should just exercise. And, yeah, you can think about maybe damage and whatever, pathology, labral tears and all that stuff, but don't get too caught up in it. You still have to move in order to be able to move. So I invite you to always weigh the actual explanatory power of theories that are given to you. Right? So even if your doctor says, oh, it's this for sure, like my doctor, think about it. Actually give it some critical thought and see, does it make sense? Does that actually make sense given the context, given what I know about my body? You live with your body 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you have a lot more information available to you than somebody who's only with you for 10 minutes once a year, right? So keep that in mind, keep that perspective. Your body is your responsibility. Think about what you can do with it, think about what you want to do with it, and train it to do what you want it to do. So I hope this perspective helps you guys out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a link down below to do that. Find us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. We'll like you back, maybe, possibly. If you'd like to support us and help us make all of our YouTube videos ad-free, you can find us on Patreon, and you'll find a link in the description there. And you can make a pledge to help us out so that we can take all the ads and commercials off of our videos and keep making videos for you guys. So guys, remember, weigh every theory, and always remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And don't forget to subscribe.